Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another live stream. It's Thursday night. Time for some more shenanigans. Welcome to everybody in the chat. Hello, Trevor. Hello, Tim. Hello, Tim under two different aliases. Jesus, schizophrenic Tim.
Tim's here boosting our viewer count.
Yeah. And obviously David, who's here in the flesh. Weird. So, welcome to everybody who's catching up with us later on YouTube. Tonight's show is going to be the same format as usual. David and I are going to chat a little bit about what we're going to be hobbying on over the next couple of hours. Then we will talk about what we did at our gaming club this week on Monday night and show you some pictures from the painting competition which took part. And then we will just hobby and chat for a little while, discuss some of the news that some of the things that have captured our interest. Hello, Darren, alias Demon Sub, that have captured our interest in the world of hobby gaming this week. And then we will tackle our main topic at around 9 o'clock, which is a discussion around. So following on the theme from last week, really, discussing the pros and the cons of the incorporation of technology into our wargaming hobby. Oh God, he's at it already. Tim started.
If this is not what I think it is, Tim, you have gone down in my estimations as a German citizen that likes to take the piss.
Well, bearing in mind my Discord is already operational doing something else. Do you want to... see if it's my personal
It's in
one.
your PM, mate.
Okay, right. Okay, well, we'll work out how I'm going to access that in a minute. I'll probably have to disconnect video on my mobile. To come back to what we were talking about 9ish, we'll discuss technology in miniatures wargaming. Obviously, it's not a particularly... In fact... Historically, I suppose our hobby, mate, is the antithesis of technology, isn't it? For, a lot of the gaming experience that for many, many decades people only got with pushing toy soldiers around a large dining room table with terrain on, you can now get through real-time TT strategy battle games on PC and other gaming consoles.
Yeah, there is like Total War and all that shit, but it's just not the same as beating the shit out of your opponent in the flesh.
No, well, I mean, we can get into it. There's all sorts of reasons why it's not the same, but in a way, technology is creeping into even a sort of almost antithetical thing for technology. It's creeping into our hobby, isn't it? Anyway, do you want to go first with what we're working on?
No, because I'm currently cleaning my needle because I'm a pleb and I've bent it.
What, tonight or bent it before? I tell you what,
sure.
If you want to straighten your needle, there's a fantastic jerry can on OTT. Jerry showing there's some products out there to just always got it on Instagram as well. I can do that, Tim. I'll pull up Instagram in a browser in a sec. So for just keep it short and sweet, I am still on Project Goblin. I discussed these last week. I've got 4 more that I need to essentially finish the paint work, the speed paint work on. So I need to put black on 4 of them. Then there's a few bits of metallics. They've got some rather cool little moon-shaped belt buckles that I'm going to do like in a Vallejo metallic, and one of the guys has got like a sword which I'm going to paint in a metallic colour. So I'm just going to be picking at those. If I manage to crack on with all of that, I've then got to think about basing, and to be honest, that involves me remembering what I did a million years ago or getting a colour match to the base from...
Oh, we can colour match. We can do that on this channel.
So that's what I'm up to. So go back to the main scene. What about you, buddy?
I'm still having a fight. Bear with. Sorry
Okay.
for the boys and girls at home.
So
I
I
spent
take
a while
it.
sorting out paints,
I
and then I'm
take it.
sorting out my fucking airbrush now.
I take it if you are faffing with your airbrush, that's what you intend to be doing.
Yes, I intend to be. I'm Video Ninja ready.
Oh, you are. Yeah. Well, I've got you up on screen, buddy. Here we go. So you can take us through. While we're faffing with the technology, guys, just sound off. What we up to?
We have booked on Monday.
I know that you don't do much hobby at home, Trevor, but you can let us know what you're up to, Tim and Darren.
So we've got metallics to wash on the orcs.
Okay.
Which is like a 5-minute task.
Yeah.
We then have the Basilians to paint, dry brush, detail, wash, do the sails, all by Monday. Luckily, I've got Monday off work.
Okay, so that we're calling that now. That's going to be a last-minute job. Anything else to show before we go back? As it's sort of like part of the course that I pull away from you is your sort of tabletop, and you go, oh, before you go.
Yeah, no, I'm good this week.
Trevor's on Lost Ark. I'm assuming that's some sort of computer game, Trevor. I know not these things because I don't really computer game.
Everybody can see my wall if it's still live.
Ooh, Christmas-themed Ranges of Shadow. What, totally custom home created, Darren? I tell you what I did do. I saw your Christmas Goblin and Christmas Ogre, I think it was, wasn't it? On OTT. Very nice, mate. Very nice. Okay, that's interesting. I did have at some point in my life a GW miniature holder for painting. Don't appear to have it anymore. Not that that's a great. Not. Oh, I found it. It's behind the coffee mug.
Coffee, not beer.
No, well, it's empty, mate. I've had enough coffee tonight. Jesus, I'm buzzing. I knew I'd seen it. I knew I'd seen it somewhere. That's probably where I saw it then, Darren.
Yes, Trev. Armada, new game. We're gonna cut our teeth, aren't we? Jim?
Yeah, I'm quite. I mean, I'm a big fan of Mantic's game systems in general, and I'm liking the look of Armada. Having watched a few playthroughs, I'm looking forward to getting it to the table, and having missed the boat back in the day on.
Boom boom.
Boom boom. Dad jokes coming thick and fast. Having missed the boat on the Man of War, was it? The GW one? This will be my first sort of my first foray into naval gaming.
I mean, technically, can you class X-Wing as naval gaming?
No, because it's spaceships, you arse.
It's one and the same, isn't it?
Is
Big
it?
Boats in space.
Oh, is it? I don't know. So, mate, club.
Yeah, club. So, we had a fucking awesome game, didn't we?
We did. Well, I enjoyed it. Hopefully, Kel did and you did.
I fucking loved every second, mate. It's Cthulhu.
It was a really good scenario as well. So, basically, what we tend to do at our gaming club is first Monday in a month, we have a painting competition. Just an informal thing, no prizes or anything like that, just bragging rights, and we have a theme. And to sort of like, as the other thing that we do is try to play a board game or do something that's a little bit outside of the miniature. Yeah, bit outside the miniature wargaming wheelhouse. Well, at least David and I do. And some of the other guys are dropping into it as well. I mean, we've had Nemesis board game running, I think, a couple of weeks, haven't we, mate?
Yeah, I've done Everdell, I've done League of Infamy. What else have I done? Arkham Horror, the board game.
And I brought along Arkham Horror the Living card game, which those of you who've seen some of our previous... Oh, God, the hashtags have started. Hello, Limburger. The hashtags have started already. Jesus.
It's a fucking noose around my neck, that is. You're going to drive me to an early grave, Tim, and it will all be your fault. It will all be your fault. Exclusively, entirely your fault.
So, yeah, coming back to what we were talking about before we started trolling David this early in the show, I brought along Arkham Horror Living card game. I pre-built some decks for the guys so they could take their pick, and there were 3 players. Myself, David, and a lad called Kel. And we ran through one of the standalone scenarios, Murder at the Excelsior Hotel, because obviously we didn't want to really commit to a campaign because it's not really going to fit with everybody's sort of other commitments at club. But I ran Rex Murphy, who's basically a reporter, and he's a seeker in the game, which is sort of like an investigator type class whose main job is to gather clues and evidence. David ran Finn Edwards, who is a sort of Indiana Jones, but more... He's a cross between Indiana Jones and Han Solo, I guess you'd say, because he's got like a smuggler's background, which is quite cool. And Kel ran Agnes Baker, who is a waitress who has a secret past and comes from a long line of witches. So she's a mystic in the game, which is sort of like the magic using spell casting class, or as close as you're going to get it in a Cthulhu Mythos game. And but essentially the scenario, for those who've never played it, in Murder at the Excelsior Hotel, essentially one of the characters...
Spoiler alert, people, by the way.
It's been out a while. I don't think you need to worry about spoiling it for people. One of the characters goes to meet rendezvous with somebody in one of the rooms at the hotel to glean some secrets about the mythos, or be told something about a mystery. And then they black out, and the person is dead in the room with them when they come round in a heap of gore and violence.
Bloodstained knife.
So the next part of the game is basically you trying to work out what's going on at the hotel and not get nicked for the murder, basically, and avoid the cops and the troublesome hotel staff. And the great thing about the scenario is, like a lot of the card-driven scenarios in Arkham Horror card game, you... I'll go look at this Instagram post. A lot of the what was I talking about? A lot of the details of what happens, the events that happen in the game, are randomized, so the game plays out differently each time you run it.
The deck out.
So for our playthrough on this particular occasion, we had fuck's sake, Tim. Oh my god, it's not going to ever end, is it? I'm just going to queue this up on the browser. So while I'm talking, everybody can... This is what Tim has sent us on Instagram.
Is this a petulant level of trolling?
Genius, absolute genius. Yes, so in this particular playthrough, we ended up with sort of 2 subplots. There was an alien artifact, wasn't there, mate? And there was a sort of strange chemical concoction that we came across. And essentially what happened was,
Tim,
as the story developed...
Fuck off.
as the story develops, in the version that we played this week, we ended up, the boss fight was basically this alien beast spawns on the hotel roof.
Well, no. You've skipped the most important part.
Okay, what's the most?
When we advanced the act, you in your haste was like, "No, clear of the room! Clear of the room! I don't want to be caught."
Look, how was I to know? Yes, that was a thing. So, but yeah, we ended up fighting this guy on the roof of the hotel by throwing chemical bloody acid bombs at him, which was
out the window.
And by some fucking miracle, we actually didn't die and made it. Bearing in mind, this thing was a ridiculously overpowered boss, as it often is in Arkham games. We managed to basically kill him with one in the last turn. If we hadn't have killed him in that turn, he definitely would have taken out Kel's character. Agnes Baker would have been toast. And the rest of us would have been not far behind, frankly. Our chances of killing him would have been next to zero. Because we were all pretty beat up and we'd got bloody annoying hotel guests spawning by the dozen and flooding into the rooms, which was a pain in the arse. But yeah, the only tactical error that I made was right at the beginning of the game. I decided it'd be a good idea if we tried to clean up the crime scene and hide some of the evidence of, maybe try and hide the dead body, clean up the blood. But apparently, no, you're not supposed to do that because that makes you look guilty. So that was my bad. And it did make the second part a little bit harder than perhaps it should have done. But, it was an easy mistake to make. I think
we didn't kill any innocents.
We didn't. Technically, the only people we shouldn't have killed were the police. And although it was close,
and the hotel guests.
No, the hotel guests didn't have the innocent tag, I don't think. Or did maybe those ones that spawned at the end did? That really annoying woman who just kept wandering around. She said, wanders to the nearest crime scene and goes, "Oh, has anybody seen this?" It's like, stop.
You not seen my dog?
Oh, has anybody seen all this blood and this dead body? Shut up. Shut up, woman. Go away. But yeah, bloody Arkham is always a great experience. Just in terms of telling a story, it's fantastic. And like I say, that particular scenario is, I think there are 5 sort of main plot arcs or plot threads, and you can have them in any combination of 2. So somebody who's better at maths than me off the top of their head can work out how many permutations for playthroughs and replays there are there, but that's a lot. So it's a great little scenario.
It was awesome. I think we should definitely, like I said to you, get some Arkham Horror board game between Christmas and the New Year, if we get a chance.
We'll definitely have to. It would be nice for us to put Arkham on a regular footing and just have an Arkham night. And try and play Arkham.
We both love Arkham.
I still want to try the old Call of Cthulhu role-playing game as well. I know Jerry's a massive fan, and it's one of the few role-playing games that I enjoy watching online. But sadly, I've never actually played it myself, but I'd be so excited to play it. It's, as I'm sure you guys would agree as well, it's so... Oh,
it's another one of your passions, isn't it? Oh, we're buffering, are we?
Yeah, I was going to say, I've just had an alert from OBS Studio that it was buffering and not. So, I apologise if we've just fallen off the live stream, guys. That's never happened before, and I don't know what that's about. I don't know if I've got any resources I can close. I can close that. Funnily enough, I've got green. I'm only using 30% of my CPU. So, not quite sure what caused that little hiccup. But there you go.
Maybe internet with the temperature?
Could be weather related. Yes, sorry about that, guys. Are you a fan of the Batman game Arkham Knight Demon Sub, Darren? I must confess, I do like the Arkham games on the old. I played them originally on the old Xbox 360, but I have got Arkham Knight, and I've played about half of it on my Xbox One. But I wasn't such a fan of the Arkham Knight one. Simply, and I think I'm quite common. This is commonly a reaction: is that the driving the car around is damn annoying. If they'd have left the car stuff out of it, it'd have been much more my cup of tea. If I'd have wanted to buy a driving game, I'd have bought a driving game. Not a stealth beat 'em up featuring Batman.
Or actually gone for a drive.
Well, yeah. So, yeah. Although Batman is another fantastic gaming franchise, that's another game I'd like to get to the club and bend somebody's arm to play. Batman.
We need to get Mythos on the table, dude.
We need to get...
Because I think several of the lads at club would be absolutely fucking hyped to play that.
Do you think?
Yeah. Dan?
Yeah, you're probably right.
Me, Luke.
And it'll be a good one to do for... To be fair, it's a good one to do for next year because I really want to get some terrain for it. And it'll be give me a good excuse to spend some money on TT Combat's pre-painted stuff.
No, Wayland's pre-painted
stuff.
Oh,
Wayland's pre-painted stuff. I always get those two mixed up. What's it called? Not Dunmouth, which is obviously
Dunwich.
Dunmouth. They called it. Just to differentiate it from Dunwich, which is
we'll take Dunwich and Innsmouth and combine them.
Yeah. I guess it's all out of copyright, so they have no fears.
Yeah, but surely FF have some question mark?
The only thing I think potentially FF could have any call outs for is the characters, the named characters they've created. And obviously any artwork they've created. But I think even Fantasy Flight have used a lot of names from actual original texts by H.P. Lovecraft. Yeah. But I'm sure there are things that they could have copyright on, but not obviously. Dunwich and Innsmouth are names of places from the original books. Yeah, I agree. Limburger Arkham Knight was definitely the worst. I mean, I don't really. The plot's fine, but it's that fucking car. Why
would you need an excuse to spend money? Either you have the disposable income or you don't.
What's that in relation? Oh, what me fight to be? Yeah, but it's finding the thing to spend it on, Tim. It's narrowing the field because it's like I said a minute ago. Not only do we have 100 different hobby activities,
Wild West Exodus table,
making demands on our time, they're also making demands on our cash, and it's about like, okay, where is my priority going to go? What do I really need? What can I live without?
Oh, we had that discussion the other Saturday. about plans for next year.
Yes.
I've just realised one that I completely fucking missed.
Yeah.
That also links in with that Mythos set.
Okay.
Fallout 4 and Fallout the Miniatures game. And play it in like downtown post-apocalyptic Boston and just add some Fallout-themed scatter.
Yeah, you did say that the terrain would work quite well for that when I mentioned about getting some. So, and because you've got now, you did drop some money on the Wild West Exodus stuff, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Have you got that assembled yet, or had a look at it?
Have I? Fuck.
Well, I was just wondering if you'd like, even if you hadn't, had you had a look and.
I've had a look at it. I haven't got any of it assembled. To be fair, I've got a few days of annual leave coming up.
What does it look
Monday.
Okay? At first blush?
It looks alright. I mean, again, it's hard to tell while it's still flat and in packets.
Okay. You'll have to get some of it assembled and get it on the stream for us. Or bring some over when you on a Saturday night. We'll have a look. Because as I say, some of the Dunmouth stuff is like fucking amazing.
I'll tell you who I have seen this week who's building Dunmouth stuff.
Oh, who?
MS Paints!
Oh, yeah, you sent me that. So, we talked about Dave at MS Paints last week. For anybody who's following... No, it was last week, mate. No, it was last week, because we were talking about him and his painting style.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that because I rewatched the stream earlier today.
Because you bookmarked it, or did you chaptered it?
Yes, I did.
Fucking hell, we're up to date, boys.
Well, we're not. There's 3 or 4 ones in the back catalogue that I still need to do. Oh, the other thing that I did Hello, Crispin. The tone
has been lowered.
The other thing I did manage to do was sort out the terrible pixelation we've had on some of our thumbnails recently, which is totally my fault because I don't know how to use graphics.
The internet.
Yeah, well, no, I just don't know how to use graphics drawing packages. So what I was doing was I was importing like pings at various different scales. And then, obviously, when you use them in a graphical front end, this is all going to get very technical and tedious, people, but somebody might be interested. When you use them in like a graphical package front end, it does all sorts of image correction and interpolation. Is that the phrase where it depixelates stuff? It does all that stuff on the fly. So what you're looking at in your display is not necessarily what your exported image is going to look like at the resolution you select.
No.
And that was the mistake I was making. But I've actually worked out that you can actually convert pings and JPEGs and shit like that to polygons or curve models, and then the software
SVG scale.
Yes, then it exports them without massive pixelation and bollocking. So I went back today and re-rendered a few of our really horrible looking thumbnails, and hopefully going forward everything will look a little bit more polished and a little bit less bloody, amateur hour. But yeah, so that was that. But yes, Dave at MS Paints, we got sidetracked, mate. Dave at MS Paints, for everybody who's not following him on.
You got sidetracked because you were talking about things that you had learnt this week.
Okay,
If you'd have asked me about that, I'd have been able to have told you why that was happening, because that's part of my day job.
Well, you should have bloody volunteered. You said, you know that crappy exit sign on that thumbnail, Paul? How the fuck did they... Why didn't you do this?
Busy boy.
Anyway... Dave at MS Paints, I think, has got involved with Wayland to do some sort of board build because he's throwing up work in progress shots on Instagram at the minute, innit? And it looked like he was LED lighting a lot of it.
Yeah, let me go and find it from MS Paints. Oh, fuck off! Not that person. I want MS Paints. Thank you. So Dave put a video story up. Oh, it's gone. Who would have it? Wayland? Wayland still might have it.
I tell you why it'd be gone, mate. Because he put it in his story. and that only lasts 24 hours. Then it gets binned.
Let's go have a look at the screenshot. Yeah, so many lights, so many wires was the caption picture, but there's Dunsmouth scenery in the back. There's what looks either like some Wild West Exodus or stuff in the foreground, and then there's a load of like HO scale, what's it called, street lights, and he's making a plinth or a pier out of some coffee stirrers and other bits and pieces on this board, and it looks fucking gorgeous, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does look great. I can't wait to see the finished article, which no doubt there'll be a snazzy video to accompany, which will be great because Dave does do fantastic quality on his vids.
Very many wires.
Oh, he showed it on Patreon. Oh, do you follow Dave on Patreon then? Tim? Part 5 parsecs from home. That's the game with the solo mode, isn't it, Darren? You see, I've learned something new. Crispin, you're Ludan, are you? I didn't know that. Or if I did, I forgot. So I've learned something new today. Tim?
No, I've hacked Patreon, obviously.
Right, okay, we can all tell what mood Tim's in. Thanks, Tim. Right, news, mate. Let's go back to this. Where are we here?
Are we starting with the thing I mentioned? Because
let's start with the thing you mentioned. Yes. So this
we've called it multiple times.
This is now, I believe, the third one, isn't it, mate? So
fourth one, because you
Pungari.
have the Scourge that they did for the Expo.
Yes.
There's the Pungari that we spoke about last week.
Yes.
There's this Resistance fighter, and then they've also done a Shaltari mini.
Oh, where's
I think that is also on Instagram as well.
Oh, we haven't seen that one.
Hang on, let me go to TT.
So yeah, TT Combat, we've talked about them already tonight.
It's 4 pictures back from that one, mate.
Right,
if you want to go have a look at it in a second. I'll
see if I can pull it up. So, obviously with their Dropzone universe, they've got Dropzone Commander, Drop Fleet Commander, which is the space combat game, and they've started bringing out these teaser 32mm scale miniatures for the infantry models in the various factions. So this is, I believe, a Resistance trooper, isn't it, mate?
Yeah.
We've shown off the Scourge, the sort of Fredo Limburg. It looks like it might be Kill Team, but for Dropzone Commander. So I don't mind. I don't mind.
I love the Drop Fleet universe, though. It's so unique.
Yeah, I'm with you, Tim. It's a bit like when people put all sorts of bullshit tags in YouTube videos or whatever. So you put in a search topic and it comes up, and there's no reason it would. I don't get it either. But then again, I'm old. I just think just label things responsibly, people. You know, the world's a big place. There's a fuck ton of information there. If we curate it sensibly, people can find stuff without getting spammed with irrelevant shit. But that's getting off topic a bit. I am, like David, I am quite excited for this. Because
if it does turn out to be a skirmish game, I think we're both in wallets fully stuffed, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a mass combat game, Cheese Me or Limburger, I don't think I'm going to be up for like a big scale job. But another little skirmish game, yeah, fine. I can paint. I can get 2-pack factions painted. I can, if for less than £100, I can get enough to get myself ready to play, and even with 2 factions, show somebody else. Then
Cheese me coming in with the hashtag here, please label responsibly. I think we should start a Yellow Belly tabletop movement. Everything we post should have that please label responsibly as the first hashtag.
That's probably a good idea. And if I was the kind of person who used hashtags at all, then that would probably be something that would happen.
You don't use the internet, do you, to show off your
I don't.
Your minis?
Well, I'm just crap at internet. What do they call it? Search engine optimization. Acronym.
Metadata and shit like that.
SEO. I don't do any of that shit.
But anyway,
which is probably
want to see the Shaltari.
Okay, fucking hell. So let's see if we can find the Shaltari. Let's go back to the main scene while I piss about in Instagram here. TT Combat.
Fucking Tim, let's tick off the show notes. We've got a checklist. We've done the technical hiccup with the buffering. We've badgered David about Assassin's Creed. Yeah, but you've not done that enough yet, Tim. So you're going to have to do that again later as a reminder because I'll have forgotten about it. We've gone off topic. Check. And we're talking about Drop Fleet, which seems to be something we're doing regularly at the moment. TT, stop being a fire hose.
Let me do it. So what do we do? Here we go. TT Combat. So let's go to TT Combat. Here we go. Boom. Oh, that was this one, was it? This weird looking
alien on a rock.
Yeah, I'd missed this one. The Shaltari. So this is the one that David's talking about. This is another 32mm scale alien. I'll be honest, I don't really like this model that much. It does look a bit I'm not weird and baby-headed, if I'm honest.
But that's what the Shaltari are in the lore. They're like little prickly hedgehogs that go inside those armoured suits.
Okay, well that's fair, if that's what the lore says they are. But yeah, not a massive fan of this sculpt. It looks a bit weird. To be honest, it looks to me like some sort of Tomb King animated construct made out of sandstone. And I thought that's what it was when I just sort of glimpsed the picture without really looking into it. I thought it's. I
just realised as well that mini was in the teaser that they put on Instagram with the Pungari mini. There's the Pungari mini in the foreground.
Okay.
That was posted on the 26th of November with the Shaltari in the background, out of focus.
Okay.
So yeah,
because I think the Pungari is actually a Shaltari slave race, isn't it?
Yeah, slave race.
Yeah. So they're all linked. But yeah,
So the only ones we're missing now are PHR and UCM. If we see those, we know there's a skirmish game incoming.
Well, to be fair, there's got to be a skirmish game coming anyway, hasn't there? I mean,
but they haven't updated the show exclusives for a while. Like the show exclusives this year were the same ones they were last year, with the Queens of the Adriatic from Carnivale.
Yeah, but why release all this information about these things now? To be fair, the backdrop is really good.
Even the Resistance one with the backdrop's really nice. That is something TT do very well, of backdropping their photos. Like even the Carnivale miniatures taken on a table have nice out of focus backdrops, so they look like they're grounded in the environment rather than just on a black background.
That's a very good point, Limburger. Kickstarter, maybe.
I mean, yeah, it will be a Kickstarter knowing TT.
Yeah, you make a very good point there, sir. So at some point then, we're going to, see a Kickstarter for some sort of Kickstarter for this, do we think? That's a very good point, so that probably is the way this is going to go. I'll tell you one thing I will say that I like. I mean, as fans of the games that they already do, and people who follow them on social media because we like the company and the products they make, at least this is, I mean, I know this is a form of hype, but at least it's sort of like cryptic and subdued hype. Does that make sense? I know
again,
that's probably an utterly
hype without a release date as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort
will be
of
a Kickstarter. We will hear through it at OTT soon enough.
Oh, okay, right, fine. But I know that hype is probably I know hype is probably utterly the wrong phrase, because obviously they're not making a big song and dance. They're just releasing these images with just like little comments. But do you know what? If I'm to be teased with something, do it this way. Do you know what? It feels really low pressure, but it's just as engaging. So if anybody cares,
well, look, we're talking about it.
Yeah, if anybody cares and is listening, this sits much more comfortably with me than, you know, fucking the way that some things are sold to us with preposterous cinematic trailers and.
That is, well, again, look at the Leagues of Votan release with the trailer on, what was it, April Fools, and then the day after sending out a second trailer.
Right.
For it, because nobody believed it.
Okay. I didn't realise that's what had happened, but unlike I didn't follow Leagues as closely as you did at the time.
I'm quite a fan of how Wayland and TT release and tease things. Oh fuck, my webcam's just gone miles away because I punched it.
Yeah, that'll make it do that, mate.
So yeah, that's just been in the news this week. We've seen it, as we've already said a couple of times. We're calling it, and we'll take money if we're wrong.
Yeah, we're offering good odds if we're wrong, because we don't think we are. I don't need that anymore. So,
what else are you seeing in the news this week?
I've got a couple of things that I wanted to mention. As people who've watched us before, yeah, exactly, Limburger. You know, I think understated hype is a way to go. The Carnival, I wouldn't mind if it was a Carnivale style dice system. I like the dice system in Carnivale. Tell you what I do like most, and David and I talked about this on our criticals video, that I like the critical success fumble system in Carnivale, because it's if for a start it's a D10 system, and secondly you have to have a critical failure plus one other failure, or a critical success plus one other success. So it really limits the emergence of these critical situations. They're not happening 2 or 3 a turn, which to me is a much better gaming experience, with these exceptional events being, you know, not 10 a fucking penny. Coming back to what this, Ash Barker, Guerrilla Miniature Games, love the channel. If I was to say that there's somebody who's my spiritual, if there's a spirit, and if I have a spirit animal in gaming, it's Ash Barker. The way that this guy looks at his hobby and enjoys his games and likes the variety, and he likes casual, narrative-based games and narrative-based play, then, you know, I love his content, and I like his philosophy, and he's just started a new project. This is probably going to be relevant for several of the guys at our club, because Infinity's just starting to take off. Ash is a massive Infinity nerd. He's been playing it, I think, since the first edition, right in the early days. He still does regular battle reports on his channel under the Radio Neo Terror, I think it is, Radio Free Neo Terror title. Yeah, he does. The way, I mean, I'll tell you something else. The other thing to admire Ash Barker for is this man's work ethic is absolutely amazing. He produces, I believe it's 5 or 6 videos a week. He has like themed days, so he'll have like a Games Workshop day, a Throwback Thursday day, and Independent Game Day. He's just, the man's absolutely fucking prolific. I know that he does sub out some of his terrain painting, and he gets friends, like he'll donate second halves of starters he's sent by companies for friends to paint. But still, the amount of work the man gets through and the amount of video content he puts out is amazing. And it's bloody good quality. And he takes on some really ambitious projects. I mean, recently he did a whole series of games. I think it was 2 games of Rogue Trader, the very first edition of 40k, and then 2 or 3 games of second edition 40k, sort of showcasing some of the rules and systems from that, just as a bit of a nostalgia thing. But I mean, you name it, he'll have filmed a full campaign of it. He designs his own freaking games, for Christ's sake.
He's done what? Gamma Wolves, and what's the other one?
Steel Legion, is it?
Yeah,
the one that you wanted to get into, or was it Gamma Wolves you wanted to give it?
Steel Legion and Gamma Wolves. Yeah. The only reason I want to get into Gamma is because it doesn't require minis. It's mini agnostic.
Okay.
Through Osprey.
Okay, but. And he did a post-apocalyptic zombie game as well, didn't he?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Last Days? That was his first one, probably. I think. But anyway, he started a new project. This is a podcast. I think it's going to stay a podcast. I don't think he's got any plans to turn it into a video show or ever, because again, I think it's being recorded as a podcast with no accompanying video content, and I don't think he's got any plans to do that. I think it is a podcast. It will stay a podcast. And in fairness, there are 2 episodes out now, but I haven't listened to them. But I imagine they're going to be good because the man knows his Infinity. I mean, he's a TO, runs tournaments. He knows his Infinity well. So I'm calling this out. I think this is well worth people's time. I'll put a link to one of the 2 episodes in the description when I do the chaptering on the video. But his first one was episode 0. Was I think
I'll have to give that a listen tomorrow.
Yeah, the episode 0 I think was just like a welcome to the gang, because there's him. Who's the guy who was always his buddy in the videos? Gaming from the Cooler is his hashtag, is his YouTube name, but I can't remember his actual real world name because it's gone. Owen, it's come to me. So Owen's the one guy, and I don't know who the third man is. But I think the format that they're doing is like, Ash is the Infinity veteran, been in it since day one. Owen is I've played a fair bit of Infinity and I enjoy the game. And the third man, his role on the show is to be, I'm completely new. So that I think because Ash explained a little bit about it on his live stream that he did this week. I think the format is going to be, or last week, the format is going to be along the lines of, if you're new to Infinity, we're going to structure the episodes around what you need to know. So the first one, episode 1, is about building lists in Infinity for beginners, which I think is, I mean, the concept is great, and if it's a good quality podcast, win. And like I say, I've got every confidence that Ash will, Ash will keep it good, I think. So yeah, I wanted to shout that out. The other thing I wanted to shout out is a bit weird, and I've never really talked about it before on our streams, because we don't cover role-playing games that much. Because
no, we don't cover RPGs that much. Oh look, there's a bot in chat.
Oh, there's a bot. I shall get rid of the bot. Hi, bot. Bye, bot. Report.
Why are you so noisy and rattly tonight, Compressor? Stop being a cunt.
Report. Okay. Report. It does make you feel special. Right, that's them reported. They. I'll see if I can refresh the chat window to get rid of them.
Remove the fucker.
No, they're still there. Well, they have been reported, so I'm not quite sure how we would get rid of them. Anyway, the Dungeon Craft is... we don't talk about role-playing games much. David's... You've played a bit of 5th, haven't you, mate, and run a bit of 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah, I've played and run some 5th, like you say.
But... I used to play a load of role-playing games back in the day. Traveller, Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay I dabbled with, Middle-earth role-playing game, God, loads. But it's not something I do much now because I just don't have the time. I would love to both play and run old school Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not a massive fan of 5th. It's a little bit too much hard work for me. I like my role-playing quite loose and goose. As I said earlier, Call of Cthulhu is one I would definitely like to play. Delta Green, I would like to play. If I could find somebody who ran it face-to-face. Again, I could go online, but I'm not massively into the online gaming experience. I'd much rather game face-to-face. But Dungeon Craft is a guy who produces, as you'd guess from the name, Dungeons and Dragons content primarily. He does a very homebrew, lightweight version of Dungeons and Dragons that's more reminiscent of the D&D I used to play back in the 80s when I was a teenager. But he's written stuff for Dragon Magazine, and he's been published in Dungeons and Dragons in various editions. Sort of I think his main day job is as a teacher, so it's always been like a side hustle or passion for him. And his YouTube channel, I think, is basically the same. But occasionally he'll do little, just short videos covering campaigns that he's running himself. And he's doing one at the moment, this Reviled Society series. They're just small little bite size. Okay, see you later, Demon Sub.
See you, Demon.
He's they're just small bite-sized videos, about 15 minutes, I think this is. So they're not. Don't start panicking. You haven't got to sit through a 1.5 hour, 2 hour, episode just like you would with Critical Role or anything like that. I mean, this is 14 minutes 54 seconds. Basically, he talks you through a plot, sort of like a story synopsis of the gaming session in a really engaging way. I mean, the guy's an English teacher. His command of narrative and storytelling is absolutely brilliant. And these videos are watchable really for anybody who's got any interest in role-playing, particularly from a dungeon mastering point of view, because the tips that you can pick up for actually running narrative games and running a story are brilliant. Obviously, he's got his own idea on how the rules should go, and I personally enjoy all of his content, even when he's going on about his like old school homebrew rule systems. But I can get that that's probably not for some. But like I say, even if you're not into that, these videos are well worth a watch. He did a series called Caves of Carnage, which was the same idea. It was just a story synopsis of a campaign he was running. And again, well worth a watch if you've got any kind of interest in role-playing, particularly from a games mastering point of view. And I think that's it. That's pretty much all.
No, I'll tell you the only other thing. It's not really news, but I forced you to watch Blackjack's review of Godtear, didn't I?
You did. You did.
And you're actually quite hyped to play some when I get around to get it finished.
Yeah, Godtear is game that you've been a fan of. Well, I don't really know when it first came across your radar, mate. Games Expo was your first exposure, was it?
Yeah.
Because I didn't know if you'd seen it before then.
Seen the odd bit here and there, but I hadn't seen like any gameplay or anything until that offer was on at Games Expo, and I went away and looked at like Ash's gameplay and a couple of other YouTubers' gameplays, and was like, yeah, no, this is a game for me. So we'll buy the offer at Expo.
Yeah, because they did have a discounted offer, didn't they? Where you bought the base set and an extra.
The price of it. It was the price of a starter. You got for the price of a starter, which was about 50, because it was basically full whack retail. But then you got an extra warband for it of any of the ones on the shelf there. So it was like an extra 25 quid's worth of stuff for nothing. So that's why I got into it, because I was like, 3 warbands for the price of 2, and the boards and stuff that I need. Happy days.
I'm just having a look for. Oh my god, he's absolutely trolling us, mate.
Who's trolling us?
Tim's commenting already. So this is the video that David's on about. So how to get started with, I think it's this one. How to get started with Godtear. And as I say, as David's already gone on to say, I'll be honest, Godtear didn't really speak to me. It's obviously got its roots firmly planted in sort of a computer game style of play, hasn't it, mate?
Yes, it does.
You know, very board gamey in its DNA. But do you know what? Fair play to Blackjack. He does a really good job of selling it. And as David says, after I finished watching this video, I was like, do you know what? I think I could get excited about this game. David's got plenty of stuff for us to get started with it, mate, haven't you? So we're going to give it a play.
Yeah, I've got 4 warbands, or I will have 4 warbands after Christmas.
And the releases, there seem to be enough releases as well. The other thing that I did think was quite nice was that there seemed to be enough releases that you can, in the same way that you can do it with Moonstone, you can buy different.
You can buy anything. You can buy anything, and it works with everything.
And you can
build
buy
full Slayer warband. You can build full Maelstrom. Whatever your play style is.
But more importantly, you can build with an aesthetic, because
yes,
we looked and there were 3 sort of goblinoid. I don't know what the term is. Leaders.
No, they are. Yeah, they are goblin champions.
So there are 3 goblin champions in various different colours, so they've all got different play styles. But if you wanted to buy just champions that have got a goblin-y theme, then there are 3 to be had. So they're getting to the stage where I think there's enough variety in there that for people who, like me, are very much into the theme of what they're playing and the story, that you can build some cool little collections of models, and the models do look cracking, in fairness.
I do believe Tim is baiting.
Yeah, Tim. We'll check your Instagram out later. What's the time now? Right, it's 2 minutes to 9. So that's gone.
Before we go into tonight's main topic,
yes.
Do we just want to touch on Painting Comp, because we haven't touched on Painting Comp?
Yeah,
yet.
We haven't. Now then, people, I am gonna try and start a Windows slideshow to show you some pictures from the Painting Comp, and I'm hopefully not going to kill the stream by having too much load on my PC. I hope. I mean, it's never happened before, but that glitch earlier in the stream has worried me a little, I'll be honest, but we'll see. Let's see how it goes. If it goes horribly wrong, then that's just the way it is. Let's turn that off. Let's turn this on. Cross your fingers, everybody.
Brace for impact.
Right. Right, so as I said at the top of the show, first Monday in every month, we hold a little painting competition at our local gaming club. The theme this month was Arise. So the themes are generally quite nebulous and open, so it gives people plenty of opportunity to just submit anything
whatever you want.
Yeah, because it's really more of a club motivational tool, isn't it, to get people to enjoy the painting. So we had 4 entries this month. So the first one is this Thousand Suns model
I can't tell if Tim is trolling us or not.
Tim is trolling us because I haven't had everything's green, and I haven't had, when I disconnected before, I had a warning that my shop pop up on my PC that OBS had lost connection. So I'm sure we're fine. This is some sort of Thousand Suns. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know what it is. Some sort of sorcerer or psyker from the Thousand Suns army. This was painted by Jack, and I love this mini. I love the colours. I really like I love the blue. The blue's amazing. To be fair, it's photographed really well. Ricky's done a cracking job on the photograph.
It is.
But this came third equal, which surprised me. But it's a great looking miniature. There's the back shot. It's really clean. I mean, Jack is a very accomplished painter.
I think Jack's also picked, for backstory at the moment, Jack is dabbling in some NMM, and it's pretty baller what he's doing with the NMM anyway. I think he's pulled some of that across to this mini.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at that staff, and I don't think that is all metallics, is it? He's very much tried to create NMM effects on the top of that staff. But it's just brilliant. It's lovely, crisp, clean. I love the colour selection. As I say, I think
the cape at the back for me just loses a little bit of contrast. Like, there's the colours and the highlights in the armour and in the robes and in the steels and the golds. The back was just a little flat for me.
Yeah. And to be fair, Ricky, again, kudos to Ricky, because under the actual lights in the hall, you couldn't even see, because there is obviously some highlighting on there, but you couldn't really see it at all in the hall. But I in defence of Jack, though, I think there might be an element of running out of time, because he was painting it late on Sunday night, wasn't he? Because it's one of those things, it's quite an informal competition. We're all guilty of leaving it till the last minute.
But Tim, it's publicly voted for, so we get some real curveball winners if it fits the theme and everything else, doesn't it, Paul?
Yeah, you'll be surprised, Tim, because exactly for the reasons David said. When we first set it up, we used to have like a bank of judges who were like the people who were ostensibly determined to be the best painters in the club. I hate saying this because it sounds awful, and the problem with it was, like, because of the nature of the people who were judging, it always used to come down to techniques, quality of work, and it's what you said, that it was always the same story every time. So then we just said, why don't we just throw it open so that everybody votes? Even people who only play Magic the Gathering or board games. If you attend the club in any capacity, even if you have no interest in miniatures, here's a vote. You can cast it how you want. And for me, that's the revelation, because if a miniature embodies a good idea or captures the theme well, people will vote for it, even if it's not the most technically brilliant paint job. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. If it captures their imagination, or if it just, they think it looks cool, it'll get votes. And it really, I think it works really well. This was Wayne's submission. I don't know where this is from. I'm assuming
it's an Eldrazi from MTG.
Is it? And it's a 3D print?
Yes, it's 3D printed. It's meant to be about 8 times the size it is.
But he downscaled it.
Scaled it down.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very unusual mini, and again, typical of Wayne. The thing with Wayne is he's great. He always produces something for every competition, and it's always finished. His productivity is just like through the roof. I love the basing. I love the flowers and the detail that's gone into that. The miniatures not really to my taste. The head's a little bit weird. But
Eldrazi.
It's a great little mini, and this came third equal with Jack's. I mean, again, no disrespect to Wayne, but again, you can see how Tim immediately, like, Jack's is far more technically well executed as a paint job, and yet it got just as many votes as this, because that's what happens when other people are voting. This was my entry. I got second. And again, when we say first, second, third, it's a small club. There's only tends to be 1 or 2 votes in it. So, you know, we're not saying somebody wins by a landslide by any stretch. I was gutted because I wanted to put this on a clear acrylic base because for those, some people may have already realised, this is from Mansions of Madness, the board game by Fantasy Flight Games. And this is a Starspawn Cthulhu Beast. And I wanted to put it on a clear acrylic base, but unfortunately, despite ordering them nearly 2 weeks before, they didn't get delivered in time. So I had to use the crappy base from the board game that I didn't actually want to use to present the guy on.
They turned up now?
They have. They came in the post today, actually, bizarrely enough. I was just...
Yeah, but to be fair, we have had postal strikes here in the UK. So...
Yeah, but it's damned annoying. The other thing that I was pleased about, I mean, I was obviously massively chuffed to get second with it, but the other thing that I was pleased about with this is this was a pure speed paint. You can see that speed paint didn't go down particularly even on the wings because they're quite large areas, but I did this whole thing in 4 hours, including priming it. With the airbrush, just did a really soft zenithal with white and a very pale grey, then slapped 3 or 4 speed paints over it, and then just did a little bit of dry brushing with some like a khaki style, a grey-green from Vallejo and a pink on the purpley parts, and a little bit of bone on the claws. But it was, I just banged it out, 4 hours, and for a good board game piece, that's what you want. And this was the winner. Our man David, Cookie Gator.
Rescuing the mini from beyond the grave.
I mean, yeah. So this, talking of Godtear, mate, this is where this is from, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell everybody about it?
Yeah. So this is Morrigan from Godtear. She comes in the Eternal Glade Starter, and it's her and 5 little 32mm scales. She's, I want to say she's 54 or something. She's double the size of the other guys. Just went really simple on it, and then I thought, I'll be creative. This was started a couple of months ago. Oh fucking hell, Tim, shut up. But I wanted to go really creative and do some airbrushing on the flames at the bottom. Used liquid mask, had an absolute fucking disaster with it. We'll never touch liquid mask again with a barge pole. Is long story short, but I managed to rescue her. So basically, I finished most of this on Sunday, actually. So Sunday night was picking out the staff that I hadn't done, the couple of details on the red cape where it had chipped off, the details on her right-hand side, and washing the armour and things. And then picking the green for the base, which was Paul's call, and adding the basing material. So that was my Saturday and Sunday nights. So all in all, not bad. But no, Godtear minis I absolutely love. There's just enough detail on them that they're all unique and they're gorgeous to paint, but there's not enough detail that it's egregious.
Yeah, they are. Well, I mean, they're they're some of my favourite types of miniatures now. It's like the Assassin's Creed models are very similar in that these reasonably high quality board game minis, it's like you say, they've got that right balance of detail versus quality of finish, that they're not an utter pain in the arse to paint.
No.
So yeah, and then we got a back shot. I liked the subtle. David did a little bit of a subtle OSL thing off this green fire that she's sort of floating on or emerging from. But yeah, worthy winner, I reckon.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, way outside of my comfort zone with the OSL. I thought I'd possibly gone slightly too far. But have you only just seen Tim's comment?
I can't see the chat when I'm in. Unfortunately, when I'm controlling a slideshow, I only have one monitor, you see, so I have to have it on screen so that I can manipulate next slide, etc. And then I miss all what's going on in the chat. But yeah, I've just seen Tim's trolling.
Troll. Next year, if I can make fucking Assassin's Creed fit every single month's painting comp, I will do it for you, Tim. Okay? How does that sound,
mate? Don't just do it anyway. Just don't even worry about it fitting. Just do it.
Courtesans for Busty.
Yeah, just do it every month. You've got to get it done. It's never going to end unless you get it done. So, come on, we're late. Let's talk about our main topic. So,
wargaming and tech.
Technology.
How do we feel about it? Where's Jerry when you need him?
Yeah, Jerry should be here. He's the man with the very strong opinions. So, as I sort of said at the top of the show, technology is... it used to be back in the day that our hobby was very, removed from any technological experience. You got pen and paper and dice and miniatures, and it was all very hands-on and real world. But increasingly, we're seeing technology be adopted, and it's not just to be fair, it's not just miniature wargaming. Board gaming is getting it as well.
Again, look at Mansions of Madness.
Yeah, I mentioned it. Yeah. That's an app-driven board game where some of the... I mean, in the first edition, Mansions of Madness is a great example because it as a product has directly made a transition where there were some elements of the game that were clunky and required a human being who was dedicated just to running that aspect of the board game. And then that person had a different play experience to everybody else. So what they said was, well, hang on, we can technologize that, and the app can drive all of that. And then all of the players at the table share the same experience, and then the app fills in that gap.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of... And again, when David and I first talked about this topic, because I know it's something that's come up on OnTableTop, and Jerry's got strong opinions of it. But it's I'm of the opinion that it's definitely not a bad thing per se. It is something.
Is caveats on that statement.
It is something where I think there are some advantages. So one of the most obvious ways that we're getting technology to step into the game is replacing rule books with PDF versions or electronic versions of rule books. Now, I'm personally a fan of this sort of like simple utilization of technology and there are two reasons why I'm a fan. Number one, I have got absolutely sick of buying a book and then flipping it on eBay or getting rid of it or having to store it when a new edition comes out. And I'm not necessarily saying, I'm not talking about Games Workshop's, here's a 50 quid or here's a 35 quid book. Oh, by the way, it's fucking out of date.
Out of date in 6 months.
Yeah, even with sensible game companies. I mean,
again, Infinity's on 4th edition now, isn't it?
Yeah. So.
Oh, fuck off, cheese.
I had. What's this? Lindberger's checklist. What I get. So I mean, N3. I had the big double book set in the cardboard sleeve, and it had the law book and the rule book, and it's cool. And then N4 comes out, and it's like, right. So, and now that a lot more companies are doing PDF versions of rule books, even if they're paid for, I'm buying the PDF version because.
Well, you bought Frostgrave 2nd edition.
Yeah.
PDF.
Ultimately, I mean, I'm running out of storage for my hobby, and I can't very well digitize miniatures and terrain. But if I can digitize rule books, that's something I don't have to store. So those 3 shelves of the bookshelf, I can now convert to miniature storage or terrain storage. Do you know what I mean? I mean, people might think, well, that's a bit of a ridiculous extreme, Paul. But I've been collecting miniatures and war games and terrain for since I was fucking 17, 18 years old. So what's that? Over 30 years. I'm starting to get a little bit overwhelmed with the stuff. So actually, electronic rulebooks is a great way for me to save a bit of space. And the other upside is generally the PDF version's cheaper. And also, in terms of accessibility, I don't own a large tablet, a 10 or 12 inch tablet. I would love one, and it would be a bit of a luxury if I did. But even if I only have to use it on my smartphone, my whatever it is, 6.5 inch screen on my
he's bragging about 6 inches.
Smartphone is fine. Do you know what I mean? It's a PDF will work.
Yeah.
And again, I don't have to carry all the books about with me because it's all on my phone. So for me, it's a win. I know that this is one that if Jerry was in the chat now, it would be like, heresy, because I know this is definitely, Jerry loves a good book. He likes the paper. And don't get me wrong, in an ideal world, would I rather have a book? Yes, I would have a book. But no, I'm with you, Tim. As long as there is the printed version there for those who want it, I guess.
Well, but the other thing is, right, for the likes of Wild West Exodus is a good example, and Dropzone and Dropfleet from TT.
Yeah.
They're a smaller company. They obviously do their print books. So Blood on the Water for the latest expansion for Carnivale, for TT, Reconquest for Dropfleet, etc. But then also they have all those books available for free online as downloadable PDFs. The reason I like that is because if something needs tweaking or FAQ'd or errated, rather than it being on a specific FAQ or errata sheet and therefore requiring document management and somebody to go and download something that fixes a broken game, they can just roll it into the PDF, tweak the PDF, resave the PDF as the next revision, and just upload that to the website.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, obviously, that doesn't bother guys that downloaded it 9 months ago. But if that particular errata or an issue comes up, and then you go and look at the latest version of the rules, and oh look, it's fixed. It's like, okay, that's fine. So for me, like yourself, PDFs are wonderful. They have a place. The only problem is, as you've already sort of touched on, is the screen display on the phone or a tablet. Or if
they
you want
do,
to print them
Lindberger.
out,
Yeah, they do. I mean, don't get me wrong. Because the other thing is, for the same reason, I'm a massive fan of ebooks. I don't like audiobooks. I prefer to read. and I like ebooks for the same reason. On my smartphone, I'm carrying like an entire library of 30 or 40 novels. Okay, if I had a collection of paperbacks, I've got to store it. Do you know what I mean? And I just don't have the space.
Yeah.
To store it. I've got to be selective. I mean, David makes and that the point about the electronic format being totally updatable and revisable is in a way another perk, because I mean, to be honest, it's not a massive thing, because again, you can always push back and say, well, fucking design your game properly, and then you don't need to errata the shit out of it. If you edit it properly, then it won't be full of errors and fucking mistakes, blah blah blah. Yeah, okay, fine, but you know, there are scenarios where, and again, as a company, you can, again, there are all sorts of things that you can do with the technology. So, for example, a lot of companies like Mantic give free versions of their rules online. So, like the Firefight Second Edition, there's a free starter rulebook, and it contains the information that you need to play the models out of the starter set. But it doesn't have any of the other force list stuff. You don't get that for free. You have to pay for that. And obviously one of the ways is to buy the force book for Firefight.
Yeah.
Aside from the simple PDF version of a paper product, though, the next way that we encounter technology more and more and more and more is more tied in with what David's saying, which is army and list builders and force designers. Okay, so you've got your core rules of your game, and you might have lore written out as stories or narrative elements or whatever, and then you've got your armies, your army lists, the points costs that drive how you build and design your forces to play in the game. And more companies are using electronic apps, or whether they be web apps, mobile apps, whatever, to enable players to build forces. And I think this leans even stronger into David's errata thing, because if there's anything about a game that might need tweaking, if anything, I mean, you can change core rules because you find a core rule is clunky or doesn't work that you'd want it. Yeah, that is a fair point, Limburger. That is a fair point. Yeah, no, that is a fair point. We'll come to that in a minute, because that is a very good point. But again, with an electronic format, you've got all sorts of control about how you update points, how you can revise a model's stat lines just at the click of a button.
Again, if everybody's you take the TT approach, and you categorically from like the launch of second edition for DZC, they said every 6 months we're updating this, whether you like it or not. Even if that update means that there's actually no points change, it's being done every 6 months, because we're constantly using the data from our list builder to see what people are and aren't taking, why they are and aren't taking it, because there's even a little feedback box on their list builder. And consequently, we will adjust points cost to make something cheaper because it's not being taken, for example, because it's uncompetitive. They've been very frank and honest about that from the start with Drop Fleet or Drop Zone Second, which I don't think is a bad thing. But I've just seen Limburger's comment as well, though. Like you say, if somebody's playing with V3 of the rules and you built your list in V2, that is a bit of an issue.
I mean, I think what Limburger's more driving at is that think of the. I mean, we talked about Warhammer Fantasy Battles last week with my game of 8th edition, and Limburger was saying that he doesn't really like 8th. I don't know which would be his favourite edition, but again, there are some purists who say, well, Warhammer Fantasy Battle peaked at 6th or 7th. That was the best edition. Do you know what I mean? And with a print copy of a book, Limburger takes that, or the person takes that, and they know that that's Warhammer 6th edition. If they're using some digital online resource and then that gets updated by the manufacturer and they've got no control over it, like they've got no saved copy, then yeah, they lose that. I mean, because again, that doesn't necessarily apply to a PDF, because when you download a PDF, you gain control of that PDF, and if you choose to then relabel that file or store that file, you can always download an updated PDF, but you don't have to delete your old PDF. You can keep that. So I don't think it's necessarily a massive issue when we're talking about a PDF scenario. It can be much more of a scenario when we're talking about this next step, which is using army builder apps, because obviously...
Well, you've already come a cropper of it with N4 and your JSA list, haven't you?
Yeah. I mean, it certainly it was a problem. So, talking of which, here is what I would say is a very good example of a company using an app to allow you to both build armies for their game and play the game as well. So, Infinity Army version 7 is Corvus Belli's digital platform for building Infinity Armies. It is the sole resource now for game stats. They don't produce a book. They don't produce faction books. The core rulebook is the core rulebook. They don't produce this information in paper anywhere, which comes back to Tim's point that as long as he's got a choice, he's happy. Well, Corvus don't...
Tim no longer has a choice with Corvus.
Corvus no longer give you a choice. They are backing this digital platform. This is where all of their attention goes, and they don't want to be focusing in on paper product equivalent, okay, for the information that's in here. Now, like David was saying, they recently did an FAQ and update, and they modified the points for some models on their range because certain miniatures weren't being played. Some miniatures were played all the fucking time. So they've tweaked the points to open up the meta and make people play models that weren't being used by adjusting points, adding rules, removing rules from overpowered models, etc. So when I loaded up my old JSA list, suddenly it was illegal because it was over points, because they jacked the points on something and I can't remember what it was. So I had to go...
Domery, wasn't it?
Sorry?
Domery, wasn't it?
Might have been the Domery. I honestly, mate, I can't remember. So I had to go back and I had to tweak my list again and bring it back under the threshold. It took me 2 minutes and I've got a big enough collection. I don't think I actually need to change any models. I just need to change the options. So it wasn't a massive deal. But again, when you're in an entirely live environment and you cannot save your information, because this comes back to Limburger's point that if I'd wanted to save my old list, yes, I could have printed a copy. Well, I've got... You say that, Limburger. I've downloaded Frostgrave 2nd edition to my Adobe. Because it's got DRM on it, you can't download the PDF directly. You have to use Adobe Manager, is it?
Digital editions, isn't it?
Yeah, digital editions to download it. But as far as I'm aware, maybe they will... I don't know if that does update or whether that's fixed, because obviously you choose to download it within the digital editions platform, and then it's downloaded. I don't know if they do actually update it or change it. I don't know how that works. But
I think that's more an Adobe than necessarily the game designers.
To be fair, though, this is more your point, because, like, unless I had printed a hard copy of my old JSA list, I can't, like, I don't know what that list was necessarily now, because I could have saved it as an illegal list and just built a new list, so I could have kept a copy of it, but I wouldn't have known what the old points values were because they all got overwritten. I wouldn't have known what the old stats were because they all got overwritten with the changes. So I did lose some degree of agency and control. But, so, yeah, you've got a potential downside there in that you're losing the ability to control. So say, for example, you and your friends say, well, we're not going to play we liked the game before that errata, we didn't find it unbalanced, we're going to stick with that. In this scenario, you're knackered pretty much, because the way that Corvus have set things up, they expect you to keep up. Now, again, the other risk here is that you're putting a lot of it. Yeah, I mean, again, if you've got no net access, well, although, again, it's not quite as simple as that, because, for example, if you've got the Android version on your phone, you can set it to not auto-update, and you can save files locally to your phone,
build lists offline.
And you can build offline. So even if Corvus then stops supporting the app, it doesn't break. It still functions. So
it'll only break after a certain amount of time going updated on the Google App Store because of security reasons.
But even then, that just blocks you from downloading a new version. It doesn't block you from using the APK you have on your Android device. So that isn't necessarily a thing. I mean, again, to be fair, you could always just not auto-update it and just freeze the thing in Aspic. But I get the problem is you are giving all of your control to Corvus. You are surrendering control to Corvus. They are going to change things, curate things, modify things, and effectively, by using something like this, you're either making it a massive pain in the arse to isolate them from what you're doing, or you're just saying, yeah, okay, I trust you to do that. Crack on.
Well, again, for me, Corvus seem to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they're not going away. They're on edition 4.
Yeah, I think the thing is, mate, although we can say that Corvus are great and this is working really well and Infinity's a really good game and it's very well managed and it's got a good competitive scene, I think it's better to you have to acknowledge that when you're talking about in general terms, these are valid points. These are valid countermap points. And I'm about to bring up another problem potentially, because Infinity Army works fantastically on a large screen monitor on a PC. On a mobile, it is still usable. And I still use it a lot, but it is far less friendly than this. So on the mobile, you've got that menu on the left-hand side effectively is one screen, which is a list of models, and you have to swipe.
Then you can, you can pop out on your big screen. You can pop out the stat cards like you've got there. Then you've got your list on your right-hand side.
Yeah.
On the mobile app, it's a big, long list on the left-hand side. When you click on a unit, it then pops the stat card underneath it, and you can't have more than one stat card open at once. So the second you want to go compare it to something else, that immediately closes it. And then your actual list is on, like you say, you've got a swipe to the right, and it's to the other side. It's not necessarily the best designed app for digital format.
Yeah.
Particularly on a tablet or a phone.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's bearable. It's usable.
I mean, you're right, Limburger. It isn't you're not potentially losing control. You are losing control. You are having to surrender control of certain aspects of that digital media to somebody else. And depending on what the digital media is, how it's constructed, how it's operated, I mean, again, new phone could be a bad scenario, because obviously even if you have one of these phone syncing programs, or do you know what I mean, all it'll do is import the latest edition of that app from Google Play. It won't literally take from what your APK from one phone to the other. Although, to be fair, if you're a huge techno nerd, you could probably manually transfer a phone's entire OS. It's beyond me, but I'm sure some complete wizard can do it. But so, I mean, there are definitely downsides. But what's the upside? I mean, we've been pretty negative on it. We've slammed it. What is the upside? The upside is pretty much all for the business. They don't need to produce printed versions of this stuff. They can change things as they need to control the way the game is playing. They can address issues that are raised by their community. And the other massive win, which is not for the company necessarily, but for us, is that this is free. Corvus Belli charged not a red cent for this.
I was just about to hit the nail on the head here and mention.
Yeah, you're right. You are right,
friend
Tim.
in the room here, GW.
There we go. Your Limburger's already there.
With the new book release for Leagues of Votan, and then wait a minute, all these points values, because we tested them in different meta, are not actually the points values that they were in the hardback. Yeah, that's not on. In my opinion, and at least the likes of Corvus, etc., because you have no option to get those in a printed format, and you have to use the app or the online army builder, you are intrinsically tied to, well, it's always the latest stuff. If they release something that's broke, they can fix it within 5 minutes of it being released.
Yeah,
and the world is not salty about it, because they've at least. Those that have bought said mini and may have bought it for the broken rules, okay, fine. Question your morality on how you're playing games here. But at least you didn't go out and buy a 30 quid book that was errated before it actually even hit the shop floor.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. Somebody who buys something because they know it's broken and they want to beat their friends up with it, that's not even in the argument, because if that's the way you play games, just go away and don't play games. You're not even a relevance. I mean, Tim, the point you make is a very good one, which is that you don't require any kind of technical know-how to operate a book. They're fairly obvious, they're fairly simple objects. But like you say, if you're trying to play, I mean, let's wind the clock forward to 2035, and somebody's trying to get an old version of an old APK of Infinity Army to work on whatever the hell smartphone we're using in 15 years, then you probably not everybody's going to be able to do that. Totally get it.
The other thing I'd like to point out, particularly with the Infinity Army Builder, you click it over into play mode, and it stops you flicking through the rulebook for your references, because you click on something and it's all fucking hyperlinked and takes you to the Infinity Wiki, which is beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, those sort of levels of functionality, because I mean, again, if you want to stop page flipping, something like this is a real boon. Now, again, I don't think we should make I don't think that we should make a big thing of it, because all of Limburger's comments come back to bite us, which is, yeah, you connect to the internet as long as you have an internet connection, and if you're having to click through to check rules resources, is your game too fucking complicated? Should your players really be doing that during the game? And, you know, that those are fair arguments, aren't they, mate? I think.
Yes.
It
depends what you like from your games as well.
But the problem is, I mean, I'm going to call out another one that is another company that's made a fair fist of it is Malifaux. So this is Malifaux's crew builder. Bizarrely enough, I think this is actually this is cleaner on Android than it is on the PC. On the PC, it's just, I think it's obvious it's been designed for Android, and then they've just put it on the piece on a web platform because it just doesn't fill the screen properly. The layout is identical, so it's all a bit of a waste. But it's a great product. It does exactly what you need it to. It allows you to build lists. You can also play the game, so you can auto-generate all your schemes and plots and your deployment just at the push of a button. You don't have to do any randomization. It strips a level of housekeeping out of it for you. It has all of the disadvantages we've just talked about in that, you know, you don't have agency about what's updated when it's updated. They can change artwork, they can change model text, they can do anything they like. No, it isn't free for the company, but it's free for me, the user. Okay, and that's the point I'm making, because this comes to our next point, Limburger, because whereas
there are paid for apps out there.
You see, the old paper model. The old paper model works fine when your game is... I mean, let's take Bolt Action. I am perfectly happy to spend money on any paper product produced for Bolt Action by Warlord. I know that they do an FAQ online, which contains some errata for the books that they've produced, but it's not huge. It's perfectly reasonable given the amount of product that they've got out. The books are reasonably priced. They don't fucking change everything every 5 minutes. So aside from the fact that I've just then got to store them all on a bookshelf, I have no problem at all. Companies like Games Workshop, they can fuck off. They spew books out at a preposterous rate of knots. They cost a ridiculous amount of money. I know that they are beautifully produced, but no, just fucking make them soft cover, halve the page count, strip out on non-essential information, because frankly, for something that's as disposable as it is, you can't be charging that money for it. It's a ridiculous overhead on your hobby.
I'm also going to wade in here on the GW argument. Fucking lifting iOS minis and Underworld's minis and going, oh, you know what game these would fit in? Let's take Underworld's minis and play them in iOS. Let's take Underworld's minis and build a fucking Warcry list out. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, but again, they're using... I mean, that enters into this conversation because they can do stuff like that easily. They're doing stuff like that easily because of digital assets, aren't they? So, like, they're creating digital data sheets. So if you want to play your Warhammer Underworld's Warband in iOS, there's a digital data sheet for it now for iOS. So they just slap it up there for you to download on the website or whatever. Want to play it in Warcry, there's a digital pack or whatever to play it in Warcry. So they can give you these things as bonus content. And to me, while like as David's just said, and as we ranted about a few weeks ago, we're not a fan of this fucking crossing the streams for the sake of crossing the streams, because you
Don't
end
get
up...
me wrong, if you spent your money and you got your minis, all credit to you if you can get them to work for multiple systems. But for me at the moment, with crossing the streams on Warcry and AOS and everything else, it's just beginning to really grate me and get on my tits.
Yeah,
because they're going to complicate things with adding back in the old world as well, and then people are going to be, well, where do we stand on X and Y, and just fucking you don't until GW come out with a policy, and then fucking pray to God that it doesn't affect you, because it probably will.
Yeah. Limburger saying their multi-platform software is best on one platform, everything else is extra work. So I totally get it, Limburger, and my gut feeling is you can sort of see, I think Infinity Army was obviously designed on a tabletop experience, and then they've modded the layout for small screen devices. Malifaux Crew Builder looks like it was probably designed for a portrait style 16:9 layout, and they've modded whatever code is in the back end just to display it on a PC with virtually identical functionality. And again, you can sort of see that in the DNA of the products. But again, both of these products are usable and they are free to the user. Okay. The thing that's happening more and more is this thing, right? So Mantic have made a big thing of their companion app. Now,
yeah, it's free till when? February, March?
Yeah, it is, but
to hook people in.
So Mantic have launched companion app. Now, Mantic's approach to this is going to be a subscription service. You're going to have to pay, I believe it's £3.99. Will give you, yeah, I know what you mean, Limburger. There's very much little left to strip out. So Mantic have decided to go into this foray into this arena to produce a digital platform to allow you to build armies for all of their key games. They are going to, I believe their intention is to no longer produce printed books for lore and history and stories and that sort of thing. I mean, they'll probably still produce derived novellas and that sort of things, but even if there is EPUBs or some sort of other electronic book. But I believe that they're intending to put inside the companion app all of their lore and presumably like world maps for whatever, that it's all going to go into this environment, and you have to pay £3.99 for a single game system, I believe it is, and then I think is it £5.99 gets you unlocks all of their systems, something like that. But you see, this is for me crossing the line, because the technology is then going to become an ongoing subscription expense. And
yeah, I can no longer play my game without paying $3.99 a month.
Yeah.
Now, admittedly, that amount isn't necessarily the biggest for people, but it soon adds up, particularly if, like us, you would have to pay this for 10, 15 different games.
Yeah. I mean, the cost isn't unreasonable. And I do believe, in fairness to Mantic, that even after January or February, yeah, I mean, it's still a regular ongoing monthly expense, Tim, which is not, it's not something to be, minimised. Do we want to be paying monthly subscriptions to play these games? And to be fair, one of the main reasons I don't play things like MMOs and that sort of stuff is because it's the ongoing cost. I don't want my, I've come very late to streaming services like Amazon and Netflix, years behind everybody else, because I resent the ongoing charge for my entertainment, because it the money adds up over time and it just gets ridiculous. Yeah. You know, and what I was going to say was I have not subscribed to Mantic, and I can still build 2 lists, and obviously the points values and the list options are still available to me even though I have not subscribed. I've just created an account. I am assuming that even after January or February, my non-subscription account will allow me to access this builder, that points values will be updated as necessary, and I will still be able to build armies. I don't know that that's the case, but I am assuming that is the case. But one of the things that is a thing, until I actually go through the registration process fully and choose a subscription level, which I will not pay for until January or February or whenever it is, but I still need to choose it, I cannot view this information. So I cannot view any of my faction orders, I cannot view any of the commander orders, I cannot view any of the keyword explanations for any of my army rules. I can get a basic list off, and if I own the core rulebook, they're all listed in the core rulebook, so that's fine. But they're not all listed in the free rulebook. Under the keywords in the free PDF, because I've checked, it only lists the keywords that are relevant for playing the 2 armies that come in the starter box. So, like, Headstrong is not in there. Wheeled tracked vehicle is not in there. You know, so
it's,
you know, I'm afraid for me personally,
I think
this is over the line.
I think the other thing as well is, right, I know Warhammer Plus has really not been well received because of the price point and what you actually get, but at least with Warhammer Plus, they were trying to do everything with it. Because they were rolling painted subscriptions in, the shorts and like entertainment, weren't they? Some of the animated stuff was getting rolled into it as well. If you were into 40k, you were into the lore and you wanted Warhammer Plus for, like, we've already touched on the up-to-date rules and everything else, it made it a bit of an easier sell for a subscription if you wanted to get into the subscription model of, okay, it's X a month, but actually as well, there's a load of entertainment included with that, or a load of painting tutorials and things. I think Mantic may or may not take that route longer term. We'll have to wait and see. A lot of it will depend on the content department as well and how much shit they can pump out, because they haven't got half as much as GW. But it's, for me, my wargaming is separate to my Amazon Prime subscription. Do you see my point here?
Yeah, but
I don't. This is just me personally. I don't mind paying the price annually for Amazon Prime, whatever it is, because it allows me to get my next day shipping on everything. It allows me to watch the movies and everything else. And when you actually break it down across the course of a month or year, it's not terrible for what it actually gains you. Compare that to my hobbies and spending £5 a month, for example, on this app and another £5 a month on a different app. It all soon adds up.
Yeah.
Particularly when, like us, you could play a different game every other week for a year and still have only just scratched the surface.
Well, I think, again, both Trevor and Lindbergh made pretty much the same point simultaneously, I think, because of the delay in chat. They basically said that it's all very well that even if you play Armada, Kings of War, Firefight, Dead Zone, how many times a year do you play those games? You know, to pay £6 a month or whatever it is for that.
If it was the only game you was playing, probably worth it.
But very few gamers, to be honest, that sort of monomaniacal system, that sort of monomaniacal attitude,
the monopoly.
Yeah, it only applies to GW, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
Most other, once somebody escapes GW's orbit or bubble, I think we all by nature become a bit eclectic and play lots of different bits and pieces. I mean, I know what you're saying, Limburger. One of the reasons we haven't mentioned GW's digital offering is I don't use it. I tried it when they first started putting AOS data war scrolls on it.
That was a fucking hot mess, wasn't it?
It was just such fucking bollocks. Even as a free thing, it was unusably shit. So I didn't bother with it. I know they've got a subscription model and you pay extra, blah, blah, fucking blah. But, I mean, the thing is, again, Warhammer Plus is in massive trouble because ultimately they're not making... They need to, make it worth the money you're spending on it. And they're not even fucking close yet to providing enough value to convince people that it's worth bothering with. And whether it survives, whether they give up on it and just bin the whole project, or whether they actually just rethink it from the ground up. I mean, ultimately...
Well, it's like they're even offering free minis if you have a year's worth of subscription, aren't they?
That's all fucking tiddling. They're all piddling at the edges. Free minis, nobody gives a fuck. Do you know what I mean? Ultimately, it's a bit like Netflix, right? If Netflix offered to send you a free plush toy at the end of your year's experience, if everything that if there was nothing on Netflix you wanted to fucking watch, you wouldn't hang out for a plush toy, would you?
No, exactly.
You'd be like, no, fuck off. I want stuff, and the Warhammer Plus needs to produce content.
I would, Tim, but I've forgotten what your fucking thing is. Your Instagram handle is.
We'll check it out later, Tim. We're coming to the end of the show anyway. Warhammer Plus it's not... Warhammer Plus isn't really what we're talking about, because that is more of a thing that... Well, maybe we'll have a different episode about that anyway. So, let's wrap things up, mate. For me, I do not have a knee-jerk antipathy towards the incorporation of some technology into what we do, because I can see, for me, there are little wins. Staying up to date with rules, having access to... I like the fact because I don't play Infinity, I play Infinity, 2 or 3 times a year. If I need to know what MSV1 is, I can click on it. It takes me through to the wiki and I can read the MSV1 rules with all the FAQs and explanations attached. I like those quality of life things. The product is free for me to use. As long as I've got my mobile charged up, I'm fine.
Yeah. I mean, again, even the share functionality in that Infinity Armour Builder app is awesome, because you just send your opponent the link code just before the game, and then they can, in theory, look at your list.
Correct. I mean, you wouldn't use it because you'd see all the hidden information, but that's by the by. I mean, that's the great thing about the Malifaux app. When you're running your game, you can put your lists and your opponent's lists, and it'll run everything for both of you in the one session. And you can link the game either remotely, or you can literally put both armies on the same phone and do it locally. It's got a lot of quality of life things. But, I mean, the one I haven't mentioned, War Machine and Hordes. Back in 2nd edition, they had their War Room app, and in fact, there's another one we can talk about. Tim can chime in, because that'll be relevant for him. War Machine Hordes had the War Room app. You could have it for free, and it had limited functionality, or you could pay 60 quid one-off charge, and they said at the time you will get a lifetime's access to everything. All of the unit cards, all of the unit stats, army builder, game tools, blah blah blah. Privateer have pissed me off because they're now discontinuing support for War Room and they're launching a new app. And I am betting people like me who paid the 60 quid for lifetime support are not going to get it.
No, because you've been bitten once before.
And Cheese Me and some dude in YouTube can now go in the chat and go, see, we told you. They lie. And you have no control.
Plushie of an Assassin's Creed character. Now you're talking my kind of language, Tim.
So,
not Limburger even, sorry.
On that note, I think we can say that actually the smart people in the room are Limburger and Tim, because they called it.
No, I think we have a place as well. I think we don't mind technology, and it sounds cheap and nasty to say it, but so long as it's free.
Yeah,
to a degree.
I think so. And to be fair, if Limburger intimated that this sort of stuff isn't free, well, that's fine. But the company can recoup its cost through its models or its business function.
Oh, fuck me, even putting a little advert in every now and then.
But using the actual tool, making the tool free for access and free for use, I am fine. As long as it's good quality and works well. TT Combat, yours needs some work because it's not very well built, but, you know, good on you for trying. The one I wanted to call out, and I want to see if Tim's got an opinion, is the X-Wing app. Because, of course, that's a whole story where X-Wing, the miniatures game, that had first edition. Then when second edition came out, I believe the app was launched with second edition and it allowed you to build lists and blah, blah, blah. And now Atomic Mass Games have basically put a bomb under the game and blown it up and changed a load of shit, particularly points costs and the way forces are built. And now the app is redundant and dead. And it's essentially down to fans to produce a replacement because they haven't changed it. Yeah. And again,
and we come full circle, don't we? Of fans updating dead games. They're not necessarily dead games, but
you know. And here's the parting shot. Yeah, I've been getting into the 2.5 rules, Tim, but when I found out that the app was now effectively useless, digital junk, I was like, for fuck's sake. But no, you're right. And I have been building and playing lists without it, you know, because again, AMG have put all of the stuff up on their site under X-Wing resources. It's all there as PDFs. You got all your points. You got all your, you know, you can build. They did walk you through it. But again, it begs the question, why have a fucking digital platform, then don't update it?
Yeah, that you then bastardise.
You know, why have a digital platform and then fucking abandon it? You know, it's like, yeah.
Right.
But here's the other question. Obviously, we've got, the room is split pretty much 50-50. I think David and we're both on the same page, which is, as long as it's free and as long as it works, we'll engage with it. You've got...
If it's bullshit, you've got one chance.
You've got people like Tim and Limburger, which is like, no, it's just a fucking joke. Stop doing it. Do you think it's inevitable that this is going to become something we see more of?
Yes. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
For those. It's... Mansions of Madness, I know it's an elephant in the room, but they do it really well. And unfortunately, you guys ain't getting any younger.
Oathsworn. Oathsworn's another game that was app-driven. Corvus Belli's new game. Warcrow's app-driven. I mean, I just think that whether we like it or not, and I think there are definitely issues.
I was just about to come on Lindberger's comment of the app is free, then you are the product. Yeah, but the other thing is we're already the product anyway. We've bought the miniatures. We're playing their game. We're trying to get other people, if it's a game that isn't necessarily done in the local scene, we're trying to get other people into it. We are already there marketing for them. What's it matter if the app's free?
Well, the other thing Limburger says in the comment above that, the data they extract from the app. One of the things that Corvus said that they like about the app is that because people use it to play games, they can see what lists are being built and run with. And they do log all of that information. They know what models are being put into lists. They know what models are not being put into lists and passed over. And for them, it's a resource that allows them to work on, making the assets that they produce from their game appealing to their customers. Because if people are never running model X, well, we need to do something because we want to get people to buy that model and use it. So I get what you're saying. There's a sinister aspect to data trawling, but there's also upsides to data trawling, isn't there? Yeah.
You can't have feedback and scientific outcomes without trawling data.
Warcrow, I imagine, funded very successfully, Tim. I don't think it was a particularly long Kickstarter. I'm sure we can go and look, and I'm sure it made its funding goal and is fine.
I was interested in it. I just didn't back it because I didn't have the money at the time. It was
for me. It was just I got Gloomhaven. I've got Frosthaven coming. I didn't.
Kings of War.
Kings
of War.
For me,
League of Infamy and Dungeon Saga. It didn't offer too much dissimilar to it.
I already have lots of games that sit in that ballpark. I didn't need something to scratch that itch, and so for that reason, I wasn't in. Really, it looked fine.
Yeah. Shall we go down to my camera?
So we can do so.
I've been up to, and then we'll call it there. So we've got some colour on the sails.
Oh, mate. That's moved those Basileans, is it?
Yeah, and we've got some dry brushing on. I just need to go for one more dry brush highlight in a minute.
Yeah.
And then detail work.
So, it's over to you guys. What do you think? Let's hear it in the comments. First of all, is it a net plus or a net minus? What's your views on it in general? And more importantly, is it just inevitable that this is going to be something that we have to deal with? And that, like it or loathe it, in 10 years' time, we're all going to think it's normal practice.
Yeah.
I'll be brutally honest, because I'll be honest, I agree with you, David. I think that people of my generation are just going to have to suck it up, because I just think it's something that's just going to be more and more and more and more prevalent. There definitely will be small games companies and boutique games that stay out, that don't touch it because they don't need to. But I think...
Well, again, Burrows and Badgers, Drowned Earth...
Anything by Osprey that comes in a self-contained 80-page slimline book. These sort of like micro games, if you like.
Well, you say that, but then even then, the community, for example, for Gaslands, you don't need it, but the community's gone out and made web app builders for your teams that automatically list all your rules and everything else and your team rules, and you can do a printout from them.
Yeah,
the community's gone out and done that. That's not necessarily the company itself endorsing it.
No, But also, mate,
quality of life thing for people.
Yeah, but also when it's fan produced like that, it'll be produced by something else, from something else. So, in the case of there are web apps produced by fans. Battlescribe is a big elephant in the room. That's produced where basically somebody does the data entry job, takes a paper resource, puts it into a digital format, and lets you use it in that way. But ultimately the company is behind the production of the original data.
Wamapedia is another good example.
Yeah, Wahapedia is another one. What we do as a community with the data they produce is a little bit outside of this conversation. What is the thing is when the companies say we're done with paper, we're going to go to net-based digital platform. I mean, watch this space. We're starting to see we haven't mentioned it, but it's just occurred to me. What we are starting to see now, purely digital games, aren't we? So what's that one you had recently? Star Scrappers Battle Drill?
Yeah, Star Scrappers Battle Drill, FSD.
All the miniatures are digital. You print them yourself. Yeah, all of the rules are digital. Print and play. Look at
Tim. I think on all of our streams we've barely ever ended at 10. So it's not a new box. It just so happens that this box is bigger.
Yeah.
So I think on that note.
Yeah.
Again, to stay.
A bit of a negative Nancy topic again, guys. This seems to be getting a bit of a pattern, but I suppose in a way, unfortunately, these sort of topics are often the most interesting ones to discuss because
they're thorny. People have different opinions on matters. Again, we've said it before, like our painting styles are polar opposites to one another, and it's why we get on so well.
Yeah.
But we have very similar thoughts when it comes to the
digital
aspects of the games or the rules of the games.
That's a good point, Trevor. Tick the bashing GW box. Somebody who's got the checklist.
I know what we can do for the Christmas special.
What? Not bash DW?
No.
Oh.
Yellow Belly Tabletop Bingo.
So if we put a PDF up of all of the... That's it. If you want to do that, Tim, I'm sure you've probably already started it just because I've said it. But obviously, you could do the bingo checklist for the Christmas special, so that as we get as we hit all of our milestones, people can mark
Christmas
them off.
Special drinking game for those at home.
Oh, mate, that's brilliant. So there you go, guys. If you can find time, please like the stream. It helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm. If you can find the motivation and the time, do any of the other things listed on the screen in front of you. They all help greatly. And it can't be bothered for drinking it. So yeah, we better call it because everybody needs to go to bed. And we've got stuff to get on with. So thank you very much for everybody who was in chat tonight and created another fantastic stream. Your input was invaluable, guys. Give yourself a round of applause. It was fantastic. And we will see you all next week for another stream.
Yeah. So bye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.